'cause that's how you stay on par. Oh, yeah. No need to raise the bar when you're feeling low. Oh, you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. Yeah, I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Life seems like one big test with barely much time to rest. It goes right when you go left. It's more than you can digest, but nobody's gonna die if you say you need some time to step back and clear your mind. Yeah, everyone will be fine. All you need to know is all you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Now breathe in and breathe out. Now breathe in and breathe out. Have faith and no doubt. You're gonna realize that's what life is all about. You just gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, be, be. Yeah, I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah, all you gotta do is breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah, let me hear you breathe, 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 breathe. Well, it's been the longest day. You wish you could hit erase, but you aren't lucky that way. Oh no, nobody's lucky that way. But I want you to stop where you are. I want you to hear your heart, 'cause that's how you stay on par. Oh, yeah. No need to raise the bar when you're feeling low. Oh, you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. Yeah, I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Life seems like one big test with barely much time to rest. It goes right when you go left. It's more than you can digest, but nobody's gonna die if you say you need some time to step back and clear your mind. Yeah, everyone will be fine. All you need to know is all you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's and breathe out. Have faith and no doubt. You're gonna realize that's what life is all about. You just gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. Yeah, I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah, all you gotta do is breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah, let me hear you breathe, 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 breathe. Well, it's been the longest day. You wish you could hit erase, but you aren't lucky that way. Oh no, nobody's lucky that way. But I want you to stop where you are. I want you to hear your heart, 'cause that's how you stay on par. Oh yeah, no need to raise the bar when you're feeling low. Oh, you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. Yeah, I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Life seems like one big test with barely much time to rest. It goes right when you go left. Oh no, it's more than you can digest. But nobody's gonna die if you say you need some time to step back and clear your mind. Oh yeah, yeah, everyone will be fine. All you need to know is all you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Now breathe in and breathe out. Now breathe in and breathe out. Have faith and no doubt. You're gonna realize that's what life is all about. You just gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. Yeah, I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah, all you gotta do is breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah, let me hear you breathe, 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 breathe. Well, it's been the longest day. You wish you could hit erase, but you aren't lucky that way. Oh no, nobody's lucky that way. But I want you to stop where you are. I want you to hear your heart, 'cause that's how you stay on par. Oh yeah, no need to raise the bar when you're feeling low. Oh, you gotta breathe, breathe, like one big test, with barely much time to rest. It goes right when you go left. It's more than you can digest, but nobody's gonna die if you say you need some time to step back and clear your mind. Oh yeah, yeah, everyone will be fine. All you need to know is all you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Now breathe in and breathe out. Now breathe in and breathe out. Have faith and no doubt. You're gonna realize that's what life is all about. You just gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, 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 be. Yeah, I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah, all you gotta do is breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah, let me hear you breathe, 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 breathe.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this evening from wherever you're joining. We're so happy to have you on the call. Happy Workers' Day to everyone. Thank you for joining us for this really important conversation today. My name is Ladi. I'm the co-convener on the Breathe platform. The Breathe platform is a platform where we talk about all things marriage, mental health, and of course, His Majesty. Today, we want to talk about this really, really dear topic to our hearts. And I hope in the next 1 hour, we will, spend the time together to just talk openly, and you find this space a safe space for you to, to listen, because it's mental health. Please feel free to only share what is convenient when we request for sharing. We know that there are things that can trigger people. If you do need some time, it is also okay. It's 8 p.m. where I am. Please feel free to drop in the chat box where you're joining us from and what time it is on your end. And we will dive straight into the conversation as others join us. Please, can we have the first poll up? So we will, yes. Yes, so if you use your phone to just, on the screen, yeah, to just, put on to just enter, log into this mentimeter.com to just give us your quick feedback on a scale of 1 to 10. How excited are you to be here today? And we'll run it very fast so that we can dive straight into the conversation for today. Thank you for those who are joining us on Zoom, those who are joining us on YouTube, and those who will follow on the, yes, someone who will follow on later on YouTube. Yes, so someone put for us 8. On a scale of 1 to 10, that person is excited. Don't worry, the Mentimeter, we cannot see your name. So it's anonymous. It's just the scores. Your name will not be displayed to us. It's just your input. So we have someone. So for those, once you just scan it with your phone, it will take you straight and you can put your responses. Okay, so let's see the next question as we continue. So yeah, we're here to talk about betrayal today, and I want to set the context to say that last year we had about 2 series on betrayal and infidelity. So this is a follow-on from those sessions that we did last year, and today's session is typically focused on sexual infidelity, so betrayal as it relates to sexual infidelity in marriage, but the the information and the ideas that we will discuss today can be applicable, can be adapted in other areas, but today we will focus strictly on that. So when you hear the word betrayal, what comes to your mind first? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Again, we can put our responses, our comments on the Menti. Once you just scan, it will show you, it will take you straight to the poll. When you hear the word betrayal, what comes to your mind first? Okay. So we'll just take a few comments. Yes, yeah, you can put it, you can either do it on the Menti or you can put your comments in the chat box. So someone put in the WhatsApp chat, I see already. Yeah, so what comes to your mind when you hear the word betrayal? Someone put in the chat, trust that is broken. Trust that is broken. Yes, trust that is broken. Okay, so we'll keep moving on so we can go on. We can go fast in the time that we have. Yeah, we'll take that the last question and then we'll go on to straight. What makes betrayal to hurt the most based on your lived experience? Like, what makes betrayal to be so painful? Just sharing your thoughts. What makes betrayal to hurt the most in your opinion and in your experience? Or in your experience, either in your experience or in your opinion. You can either put it on the Menti or you put on in the chat box. In the WhatsApp chat, I'll also read that out. Okay, so let's dive straight um, into our slides. We'll come back again to the Menti later on. Yeah, yeah. When you love deeply, so true. When you love deeply, betrayal hurts more. Yeah, because like with someone you don't care about or have anything to do about with, like, it wouldn't. Yeah, when you love deeply, the depth of our love also makes betrayal to hurt so much. So today we are talking, can your relationship ever feel safe after betrayal? this is the conversation we just want to have in the next few minutes. It's either I have the hosting right or you have to be moving the slides for me very quickly, admin. Yeah. Okay. So while I'm waiting for my admin to, okay, I can share the slide. Okay, thank you. Please can either to show me a thumbs up because I don't know what you're seeing, to show me that you can see my screen already. Please tell me what you can see. Yes, thank you. Okay, I have one thumbs up. Okay, is it on slideshow? A moment, please. The technology just gets a mind of its own when it wants to. Okay, so can your relationship ever feel safe again after betrayal? This is our question for the day. My slides aren't moving, so I'm really not sure. Okay. Okay. So many times, when betrayal, like I said, setting the context again, that we are focusing a lot in this session on the betrayal that is related directly to sexual infidelity. If you are interested in others, you can refer to our previous videos. But this, we're focusing, diving deep more into betrayal after sexual infidelity. And usually people ask the question, the obvious question that people ask someone who has gone through betrayal is, do you still love me? Or do I still love you? Does the person still love me? But that's not the real question, you know. If that's the question you are asking someone who has faced this kind of betrayal, or if you think that that's the question the person is asking, no, that's not the real question. It's not love that got broken. It's not really love that gets broken when betrayal happens. What really, gets damaged when betrayal happens is safety. Someone put in the chat box earlier when we say, what makes betrayal so painful? You say, when you love deeply. The love is there. You don't just wake up one day and love switches, love disappears. No, that's not how love disappears, right? So what really gets affected the most is the safety that the person feels. So the real question is, can I feel safe with you again? Because it's like taking something that is so precious to someone, maybe like a very precious crystal. I remember one time we were trying to take one house and the owner of the house had lots of crystals and we're like, please, we have children. Can you kindly take your crystals away? Because, because those things were precious, they were precious things. And it's like taking that kind of a precious, precious treasure and dashing it on the floor. When next you have something that precious to give to that person, your question is not that, do I still love the person? You could still love the person. If you have children, you have a lot of this kind of experiences with when they are learning how to use like glassware and all those things, right? It's not, do I love you? No, it's, can I trust you? Do I still feel safe when this thing is in your hand? So that's the real question. So it's a question of safety more than it's a question of love. and to experience real repair, for healing, true healing to start, right? The foundation must be, that question of safety must be answered. Please feel free to drop any questions in the chat or any comments along the way as we proceed. So, what really is an affair? Because before we even talk about how to find solution or to answer those questions of safety, it is important to first understand what an affair really is. Many times it appears as if when we hear people talking about an affair, it just sounds like it's an event that happened, or it's just one thing in the course of all the person's, just one thing out of everything the person does or the couple face. But really, it's not the event. The event could be the trigger. The event could be just one point in the whole thing. And I'll just talk of at least three things that an affair is, apart from being an event. One is a cause. When people talk about affairs, like I said, they just think, oh, okay, something happened to you. It's something someone did, and we can just move on from there, right? No, an affair inflicts deep emotional injury. An affair leaves a trauma. And again, just in the same way that the affair is not an event, the trauma is not an event. Yeah, it was triggered by an event, but it's not an event. Trauma is an injury. It's an injury in the emotions, right? And just in the same way that when you have a physical injury, there is the pain, and you need to pay attention to be able to. I know there's a doctor already on the call. All that you need to do to clean the injury, make sure that you put like the disinfectants to remove, anything that can infect the wound, and then you treat the wound. It's the same thing with trauma. So the affair, we choose to call it the affair, right? The affair is an emotional injury. It is also a, it's also a symptom. It's a dysfunction of a sort, or that is an indicator of a form of brokenness, either in the person. So it can be a personal dysfunction, or it's a dysfunction or a brokenness in the existing relationship. So it's not just, it's a trigger. It's a how do you call it in science? It's a signal. It just tells you that there was something else beyond just this, just the event, right? So beneath the surface is what you see is the affair. Many times it's like an iceberg. The tip is what comes out that gets manifested as the affair, but usually there's something much deeper beneath that surface, like the iceberg situation. And then also, an affair is a sin. I was listening to someone, and she was saying that we don't like to call the name adultery, that an affair sounds like a really touche name for something that is adultery. While this session is not aimed at condemning anyone, right? But we have to name it. It is adultery. And this evening I was checking on, I said, okay, what if someone says like, yeah, but it's not defined that way. So I checked on Google. I'm trying to pull it up. What is adultery? I want to read it to you exactly. Hopefully it shows up here. It says adultery is voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and someone other than their spouse. So the Bible says in the book of Exodus, in the Ten Commandments, which all of us, many people know, right, is do not commit adultery. So it's a sin. It's a violation of the sacred covenant that was made between the husband and the wife before God. So yes, it's a sin. And it's important to name affairs in this, at least these three ways. Because if we don't name it correctly, you will not find healing. For instance, one of the things that affairs cause is guilt. It leaves a deep feeling of guilt and shame. Why does it leave a feeling of guilt and shame? If it is just a trauma and injury, would that cause you many times to think about it, to feel guilt or shame? I don't think so. And if something is a symptom, maybe it could cause you to feel some measure of shame because you want to cover it, but not necessarily guilt all the time. But if you track the root of the guilt and the shame, many times it's because it is tracked to the sin part of what an affair really is. So if you don't honestly understand these dimensions of an affair, then we cannot, going back to our question, we are not ready for the healing that we are seeking. Okay, so who is involved in an affair, in betrayal, right? Who is involved? One, the betrayer. Oh, it's not, men are not the only betrayer. So this is just for for the purposes of presentation. There's the betrayed. There's the direct third party. That's the person with whom the betrayal or the sexual infidelity happened. And then other indirect third parties. Now, naming who is involved is so important. First, between the betrayed and the betrayer, naming the people, identifying the parties that are involved is very crucial, because the first thing is, one, there is always two sides, at least two sides to the story. I talked about what an affair is, and one of the things that we mentioned just now is that an affair is sin, right? But many times if you extend that, many times when we talk about affair, it sounds in the mind of everyone that there is a victim and then there's a perpetrator. So it leaves one party constantly being condemned. But the truth of the matter is that if we are focusing on really finding safety and building trust post the situation, we have to remember that there are two sides to the story. There's the person who was betrayed, and then there's the person who was the betrayed, who was the betrayer. Then there is the third party. There are things, if we want to build trust again, and if we want to find true healing, there are things that affect the betrayer. There are things that affect the betrayed, which we must acknowledge. There are also responsibilities of the betrayer, and there are responsibilities of the betrayed. We must settle that. But this can only come when we clearly identify who are involved. Now, the direct third party is the person with whom this affair happened. This direct third party, why is it important? Because you say, okay, let's just focus on the two people and get them to be fine and move forward. Well, we cannot always do that, because once there is a betrayal, when there is an affair, that third party becomes a third person in the marriage, becomes a third personality inside the marriage. The only third personality that I know can be in your marriage, like if a real personality that is constantly there every stage of your marriage, and your marriage can stand, is God. But when an affair happens, that third party becomes, just a constant personality in the marriage. They are eating, or for instance, the betrayed prepares a meal, And maybe because of the state of your mind, something is wrong with it. Immediately, the betrayer, just for the sake of understanding, that's why we're using the words betrayed and the betrayer, right? Any action that that person takes, the person will no longer respond to you just as you. The person will, the betrayed will respond to the betrayer with the third party in mind. So for almost everything that they do in that marriage, that direct third party is a constant figure, is a constant personality that is with them, is with them in their bedroom, is with them on the dining table, is with them when they go to work, is with them when they have the most intimate conversation. So that direct third party cannot be ignored. Then there are indirect third parties. Some of the indirect third parties are affected, like the children or the family members and the society. Why is the society mentioned? Because many times the response of the people who are involved, the betrayed and the betrayer, are influenced by the societal values, the societal norms. Because like we talked earlier about the shame and the guilt. Sometimes the two people that are involved could move on faster or much easier if there was nobody involved. But they'd be like, what do others think about me? What do people say about this? So those indirect third parties, whether they're children or the direct family, friends, and the societal beliefs about betrayal also are important to note, right? Because betrayal does not just happen in a vacuum. The multiple personalities that are involved influence our response, each in different ways, and we must acknowledge the influence that each of these parties have if we want to move past the betrayal. Again, do we have any of our polls up? Okay, so I'm not just going, I'm trying to watch the time as well. Can we take a poll? Or can I just continue? Okay, so what really happened when an affair happened? Because you have to understand really what took place, right? So that, like I said, we're trying to find, like, answer the question, can your relationship ever feel safe again? So you have to understand what happened. One, still taking on from the earlier conversations that we had. One, an affair is physical, right? So what happened to both parties physically? Again, that's why the personality identification is very, very important, right? For the person who was betrayed, physically, the person feels like an invasion of their space. And not just any kind of space, the most intimate space that they have, right? So they feel like, oh my God, now my space feels crowded because there is someone else in this space that was small and was just fit for both of us. But now there, there, there is someone else, or there are multiple others. So for the betrayed person, it feels like an invasion of your physical space, among other things, right? You feel violated physically. Yeah, you feel like this belonged to me, and now, you know. And then for the betrayer, physically, there's a feeling of exposure, right? That, oh no, now everybody can see me and I'm not covered. Something I thought that I was hiding, right? So both physical expressions leave both psychological and emotional expressions also on the people. So one of the other things that happened, we mentioned earlier, is trauma, right? So the person who there is, as I'd explained earlier, that there is trauma as a result of um, of betrayal. So it's not just that the person feels uncomfortable, because sometimes you hear people say, oh, why can't you move on from there? Because both psychologically and emotionally, something happens to that person, right? So psychologically, the person, something is broken in the person's I'm trying to keep it as plain and as possible, right? So when a person experiences trauma, there are aspects of the person's brains that get affected, right? And you can see that the person begins to behave in a way that you would interpret as irrational. For instance, the person is hypervigilant, but it's not just because the person wants to be hypervigilant. It's because something happens in the brain of the person that keeps the fear and flight response section of the brain to be highly triggered. So every other thing is no longer interpreted from the same lens that your brain would normally interpret the action of the other person. So when that person is being hyper secretive, hyper suspicious and hyper vigilant and easily, frustrated and irritated, it's not just a physical response. It is something that is triggered from the brain of the person as a response that is no longer ordinary, like it's no longer as your normal response would have been. So you see that this person is not just affected physically, it's affected psychologically as well, right? And I remember talking to, when we talk with people who have faced sexual infidelity, one of the things that the other party finds difficult to understand is, I've tried to apologize and the person is not understanding. Why can't we just move on? No, you cannot just move on, because I was explaining to one couple, and the husband had a recent death of a close one. So he was deeply mourning. He was mourning very deeply. And when he was talking to me, it was so fresh to him. And he was telling me about the pain. And when he finished, I said, you know what? The affair that happened, your wife is going through the same thing, because it's a grief, it's a loss to her. It's a loss. So emotionally, she's not interpreting it as you slept with somebody. No, emotionally, it is interpreted as a death to her. So that's why it looks like, yeah, identity betrayal. Is this who I am? Yes. Right. So it's the person grieves in the same way that someone loses someone and feels the pain. That's how it feels for the person who has been betrayed. So, and then spiritually, what happens? Like we said, it's a sin, right? It's a breaking of covenant. Many times we think covenant is just, I stood in church before the people, or I signed something in court and then it moved on. No, this covenant is sealed by blood. And when you carry that, the person in that, the most sacred part of that covenant, and go to connect with someone else, you have invited something. It's a breaking of the covenant. And if you permit me to dive a bit into how covenant is interpreted in the Bible, because that's what I know very well. There's the legal one, and then there is the biblical examples, right? And then there's everyday covenants that people go into, even in the court of law. When you breach a contract, there are consequences, right? But we forget that when covenants are broken, that there are consequences, and sometimes the consequences transcend the two people that are involved and transcend generations, right? So when a betrayal happens, a sexual infidelity occurs, it's not as easy as someone went and had an affair with somebody. No, there are deeper spiritual things that happen, and that come from the breaking of that covenant. So there is like we said, it's a sin against your body, because you're one, right? Sin against the body of your partner and sin before God. And much, much deeper, there are consequences that are attached to the covenant that gets broken. Yeah. And somebody put identity betrayal. So psychologically, the person also, like I was explaining, the brain reactions that happen, the person starts wondering, like, who am I? And spiritually, it can also make somebody to question, like, really have like existential questions about themselves. So when sexual betrayal happens, it fractures every dimension of the person. And just like when you have a fracture physically, you know, you will feel it in every aspect of your life. It's the same thing with betrayal. Every aspect of a person's life gets impacted, and we must acknowledge this if we are seeking for true healing. So again, talking about brokenness, yes, when affairs happen, something is broken. So before we can really try to fix what is broken, we have to understand what is broken. In the few minutes that we have for this conversation, there's not sufficient time for us to go into this equally important, really important aspect of how and what happens in betrayal. So, but for those who will join our cohort sessions later, we will talk more about this critical question. So back to our question that we started with. So can affairs be healed and trust rebuilt? The answer is yes. In management, you talk about the yes and, right? And this one we would say is the yes, but. So yes, healing and trust, rebuilding of trust is possible with when an affair happens, but it's not automatic. It is neither quickly and it is not without real cost. So it requires a lot of patience. It requires strategic support, and there is a cost. There's a price to pay for this, and it has to be paid by both parties, right? This is the place where we say talk is cheap, right? It's not about, oh, I'm sorry. It's not just enough. It is not enough to say, I'm sorry and I won't do this again. No, it must become a pattern. Safety and trust must become a pattern in our relationship. And it must not be just a one-off thing, right? We have to systematically build the intentional actions that will build the trust and help us to come back. So can affairs be healed? Yes, but you must reframe. You must be able to see it as you must be able to see it as a wake-up call. You must be able to reframe the incident that happened. So yes, you can rebuild, and if you are able to reframe and get the right support to build trust back again, a better and a stronger relationship can emerge from the negative experience. Okay, so as we set the stage to talk about how that can happen, we need to be clear about what is possible and what is not possible when we are talking about healing and building trust, rebuilding trust after an affair. One, what is not possible? Undoing what has happened. You cannot erase the past. So, because why is this important? Because many times when people have faced an affair, they want to live in denial, which is a normal response. If you remember the last time when we talked about betrayal, we tracked the emotional journey of someone who has gone through a betrayal. And one of the things that we talked about in the phases of the response to betrayal is shock, right? In that phase, many times people live in denial. Oh, this didn't happen. This could not have happened to me. It's not as bad as I thought it was, or yeah. But when you need to heal, you have to face, you have to confront the reality that what has happened, and you cannot erase it. It is there. It's a part of your journey. It's a part of the story of your marriage. The second thing that is not possible when an affair happens is a quick fix for trust, for forgiveness, or for healing. Again, like I said earlier, many times the betrayed or sometimes the people around cannot understand why the person cannot move forward quickly. And sometimes people really respond to others in a very insensitive manner when they be like, oh yeah, it's still, are you the first person that this thing happened to? Why didn't you just, you are still here, just move on with your life. Yes, it's easier said than done, but if you remember how I described like the different areas of the dimensions of a person's life that get impacted. So it's not a quick fix. And the betrayed and the betrayer have to understand this. And also those who are around, those who are giving help in whatever capacity, need to understand that you cannot have a quick fix. And if you promise people who have faced betrayal quick fixes, you're really um, you're really making fake promises, right? So what else is not possible? Like I said, you will get healing through denial, through pressure, or continuous betrayal. If the person, so one of the things that we insist on when we do support for betrayal is that it must be coupled. It cannot be one person, because you'll just end up wasting your time and you will not have results. Because if one partner, if there is not a complete cessation of the betrayal, like really, what relationship are you working on, right? Are you working on the relationship that the person is cheating on, or which is the relationship that you're working on? So it must be both couples. And so in the face of continuous betrayal, in the face of pressure, you can forgive and move on now. Healing will not happen. That's not possible with betrayal. And then trying to do it alone, can imagine all the things that we described, right? You need help of some sort. Many times, because of societal pressure, like we identified earlier, people hide it. And then people go so long with these things. And then one day they just feel like, I cannot do this no more. And then they still break up. And they're like, why didn't you tell anybody? Because they were trying to manage it alone, right? That weight is usually too much for one person to be able um to handle. Okay, something has gone off. Let me try again to reshare. Okay, please tell me when you can see my slide back up. Okay, thank you. So what is possible? One, honest repair. It is possible. It is possible to find healing. That is possible. What else is possible? It's possible for your relationship to come back stronger, better, and more intimate than before. Like I said, this happens when you're able to reframe and then get support for healing. What is also possible? A future that is built on truth rather than pretense. And then help is available. Real help is available for betrayal. It doesn't have to end, right? Remember, the past cannot be erased, but you can rebuild the future differently. Okay, so we have a framework that we use, right, to support healing from betrayal and rebuilding of trust. I'll just share like aspects of it here. It's we we do it like in the shortest that we do is 3 weeks, but 3 weeks not really for the healing, is to give you capacitate you to go on, and then there's also a 7 and a 10 week journey that we support people on. So what can you do first to know again that repair is possible? Sometimes people give up on finding help for betrayal because they be like, oh my God, there's nothing else that I can do. This is the worst thing that has happened to me. But no, there are people, one of my, in my, in my therapy training, I had one of my supervisors, he told, he told of a story of someone that he supported, and the man had a couple that he supported, and the couple had had over 50 affairs. The man had had over 50 affairs, and at the time that he was sharing that story, the relationship had healed. Can you imagine your heart going through like 50 affairs with one person, but that marriage was able to heal? So yes, repair, healing is possible. You have to know and you have to believe it, that it is possible, right? No matter what you have faced. Then seek help. Don't try to solve it yourself. Don't try to find the solution by yourself. Because what help does for you, whether it is help from close friends, from qualified mental health support, therapists, counselors, is to provide you a safe space, to provide you the support for the difficult, for you to process your difficult emotions. I can say to you, and if you've had to work with people who have faced betrayal through sexual infidelity, you know that it's a really painful process. So finding the help that will help you to process these painful emotions in a safe space is very relevant, and to provide you the guidance that you need, right? What else can you do? Protection. For you to heal from an affair, right, the couple have to set boundaries. It was, in the first place, it was a lack of boundaries. If you watched our video from last year, we tried to talk about how it happens, right? So it was a removal of certain kinds of boundary in the first place that led to the situation, right? So that led to the incident. So if you must repair, you have to put boundaries in place, boundaries around the external, influences, boundaries around your heart, right? Around around your relationship, there must be boundaries. A relationship that does not have boundaries already leaves itself open for invaders to come and destroy what has been built. The other thing is to talk about consequences. Many times, one of the mistakes that people make when a betrayal has happened is to think that, for instance, and I think a lot of this is done by women, in my experience, is, for instance, a sexual betrayal has happened, right? So the person feels, okay, I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not good in bed. I'm not satisfying my partner enough. So they want to respond with like more sex without dealing with the root cause, dealing with the real issues that caused the betrayal. No, you will not find the solution. After a while, that even leads more to, like, the other person feeling so overwhelmed and everything. So you must talk about the consequences. If this happens again, so what? Then how do we deal with this, right? What shall we do? What will happen? Consequences don't sound nice, but they have to be put in place if you must build trust again, Remember, at the beginning, we said the question is not, do you love me? Do I love you? The question is, can I continue to feel safe with you? That's the real question when a betrayal happens, right? So for that to, for safety to be built, for trust to be achieved, you have to answer that question. You have to put consequences in place and ensure safety of both the betrayed and the betrayer, and the marriage, right? The other thing that you need to do, I mentioned earlier that you need to reframe, because a better and a stronger marriage is possible. You need to reframe. And for you to rebuild, you need to be able to sorry, I'm being a bit distracted. Yeah, you need to be able to come together again to say, okay, we are going to build. First, you must acknowledge that we are going to rebuild together, right? We're going to rebuild marriage 2.0, because marriage 1.0 just died with that affair. You must be, it's brutal honesty that you need when an affair happens, right? You must accept, know that marriage 1.0 shall finish, shall die, like, so we need to co-create a new a new relationship, right? And like I said, there's no quick fix. So you have to, it takes time. Healing takes time. The trust building takes time. You have to make space for, in your heart, in both of you and those around you, that this will take time. Betrayal doesn't have to be the end, right? So still on what can we do, right? One, there must be repentance. Remember that what is repentance? Repentance is feeling sorry for what you have done, but don't stay there, right? It's turning away from that wrong and making a turn to what is positive, right? This didn't work out well. I did this thing. I'm so sorry, Emma. So it's beyond just apologizing, right? It's taking a new turn, right? And taking ownership for and responsibility for what happened, and taking responsibility for doing the right thing, going in the right direction, right? So it's not just enough to say, I'm sorry, right? And then the other thing that you need to do to move on is forgiveness. Now, this is really hard. And this is the part where a lot of compassion needs to come in from the betrayer to the betrayed. It's not easy to forgive. What somebody thought belonged to just him or her. Remember when we describe what happens when an affair happens, the deepest part of you, the most intimate part of you, is what that person feels has now been violated, invaded, destroyed, right? The forgiveness aspect is not easy. I talk with people and they say, but I've apologized to her or to him a number of times and he doesn't want to know. Forgiveness, when a betrayal happens, is not a right. It is something that the betrayed has to be guided carefully to offer. And even sometimes in church, when people face betrayal, one of the first places they want to go is church, because they feel like, I'll find help here. And then after a while, they are talking, and then sometimes people come back to me, they're like, they made me feel like because I'm not able to forgive, I must be a sinner, because it takes a process. The forgiveness, yes, the Bible commands us to forgive, and you should forgive, but we must understand, particularly the betrayer has to understand that this is a journey for this person. And to the betrayed, here's what I will say to you. Because without forgiveness, you cannot find healing, even for yourself. So be selfish when you are thinking about forgiveness. Do it for yourself. And forgiveness does not mean that I have left everything. It just means you remember I said it's a process. For the betrayed person, see it as first stage. Forgiveness is that I agree to be in this process to find help together with you. That's a first stage of forgiveness, and that's enough to start, right? So accept that your forgiveness will come in layers. Remember, yes, you can forgive, but you may not forget, right? The scar will be there. So with support, yeah, let's stop making people who are unable to forgive immediately feel. No, we should work, especially when we are helpers, right, to support people on the journey to forgiving and forget, because it's a lot of resentment that builds up. If you looked through that, our the emotional journey that we talked about last year, you will see that at some point there's built-in resentment and anger that the person keeps struggling with, right? So forgiveness is a journey when it comes to betrayal. Okay, for the betrayer, there has to be a lot of transparency and accountability. What I say, I will do. I will do. You must be willing. I feel like, okay, sometimes I'm talking with some couple, I'm like, I've tried everything, so me too, I'll just, no, it cannot work. So if our question really is that, can we build trust? Can we rebuild healing? There must be complete transparency and accountability. You must be where you say you are. You must be open. Those passwords on your phone, they have to go. You must answer all the questions. I talked to one couple one time. The man said, she always have questions. I say, yeah, it's part of the healing process. You have to be patient. Do you see? So complete transparency and accountability, and working together, as we said, to rebuild. So a word on safety, because there are really difficult situations when betrayal happens for some people. It's not always a linear process, right? One, if the betrayal continues to be repeated without change, or one party is unwilling to change, it may not go as easy as smooth as we have talked about here. Then if the safety of either party is at risk, then we need to rethink what is different and what can we do differently. And when trust cannot be rebuilt, it also happens because, one, both parties are not willing to be transparent, to work together on moving forward. In such situation, yes, you need to pray for and walk in discernment. I like a saying by Miles Monroe, who wrote that discernment is loving yourself enough to protect your heart. It's loving others enough to confront the truth, right? It's loving God enough to be open. I just paraphrased that saying, but we need discernment when it comes to safety, when situations don't look like they're ever going to change. And then seek wisdom above your emotions. Many times when people face this, and especially in our part of the world, they are carried away by the emotions, what you're feeling, what others will feel, but then you don't take the right decisions, right? When it comes to safety, please follow wisdom, right? Protect yourself when it seems to be repeated and unstoppable. In the last video, I talked about how some people leave themselves exposed and then they contract sexually transmitted diseases. I work in my everyday life in development, so I see the ravages of sicknesses like HIV/AIDS. So protect yourself. Don't, like we said, walk in wisdom. When you're protecting yourself, while you're trying to solve the issue, wisdom requires that you protect yourself. And if it is physical harm, then you need to remove yourself, right? And then seek support. We've talked a lot about support, professional support in church, support from trusted friends and family to help you process. This word on safety is not an endorsement for divorce, but a call for safety and discernment. As we round up this session, I just want to share some of the resources that we have for you from the Breed platform and through the Breed platform. One, please put in the chat box the free resource. We call it the Breathe 10C Safe Again worksheet to help you identify where you are and what you can do. We try to take small chunks at a time so that you don't feel overcrowded and overwhelmed and trying to solve all the problems at once. You can't, so just something that you can use. So please, admin, please help me put the link in the chat for those who want. And then for those who are on YouTube, if you want, you can send on any of our platforms. You can drop, I want the 10C worksheet, and it will be mailed to you. Yeah. And then you can also book us a clarity session so we can help you identify where you are on the journey and what you can do. It's just a conversation, one-off conversation for those who feel that they can't support themselves or they just need some clarity to be able to go on. And from next week, we're kickstarting a recovery cohort. If you would like, please admin also drop the link in the chat, and we'll also have it on our social media handles. For those who will want to be a part of the 3-week cohort that will start second week of May, to be able to provide some safe and structured group conversations on this, everything is in a safe environment. And for others, there are also opportunities and avenues where we can provide one-on-one couples sessions. So you can book a private session for personalized and confidential support tailored to your unique situation. And you can also ask for or sign up for our couples intensive. This we do as an immersive experience, either for you like single couples or for a group of couples who want to accelerate their healing and rebuild connection. We don't do this all the time. We have to fix the time. But some people feel like, I don't have all the time to, yeah, we also provide opportunities to access those kind of support. Can we take, we're at the end of our time. So the story is not over until you say so. So as we said earlier, sexual infidelity, betrayal by sexual infidelity is not the end, does not have to be the end of your story, does not have to be the end of that beautiful marriage. You can have an even better and stronger relationship if you put in the work. It depends on you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We stay 1 hour on YouTube, so I'm going to go off YouTube. For those who have questions, we will take a 5-minute break and take any questions that you have on Zoom. We do that for very obvious reasons, right? One, for confidentiality, those who we cannot put information on YouTube. So we have the talk on YouTube, and then we wait question and answer through the Zoom.
When she come back now, she will be asking me questions about it. I don't know.
Please help us to mute your mics. Thank you so much, those who joined us on YouTube, on Zoom. We will take a 5-minute break and then be back to take questions. Please feel free to put your questions. We'll take a few minutes, right? Put your questions in the chat, or after 5 minutes when we come back, we will take live questions, but we would have shut down the YouTube and stopped recording. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.